as a family financial advisor for over 20 years, one of the most common questions I get asked is, "Hey, Azul, what's the best way for me to save money for my child or grandchild?" Oftentimes this deals with college savings, but not always. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you a framework that you can use to help you make a better decision on A, if you want to save for your child, and B, if you do, what's the best way to do that? Okay, and the reason I say the first part, the A, do you want to save for your child's education or just save for your child, save up some money, is, they have such a long time horizon, kids, that they can build up a pretty large nest egg in a short period of time, which sounds great, and it is, but you also have to be careful that it doesn't result in unintended consequences. Let me give you an example. If you save $10,000 a year in your newborn child's account, in 18 years, you will have put in $180,000. Now, admittedly, most of us can't do this, but you can take a zero off of this. So instead of $10,000 a year, maybe you put in $1,000, which I think a lot of us are thinking about doing. Let me stay with the $10,000 example. So in 10 years, you've put in $180,000. But if you follow my advice, which is it's not enough to save, you also have to invest. Let's say you invested and you get a little over 8% a year on that money. In 10 years, again, you will have put in $180,000. But when that child, in 18 years, when that child is 18 years old, that $180,000 in theory is going to grow to about $400,000. That's a lot of money for an 18-year-old to have. Now, remember, you can take a zero off of this. So if you're saving $1,000 a year, instead of having $400,000 when he or she is 18, now they're going to have $40,000. That feels probably better to most of us. But if the kid doesn't spend that money at 30, they're going to have over $1 million. Again, take a zero off of that. They're going to have $100,000 if you put in $1,000 a year. And that's a substantial amount of money. Now, by 30, hopefully they understand who they are. They know what their values are. One of the questions I ask people is, first off, I share it doesn't take that much money to screw up a kid, even $40,000, right? If you give, I'm going to use the example of men. If you give an 18-year-old boy $50,000, what's the first thing that kid's going to do with the money? He's going to buy a car, right? And what color is that car going to be? It's going to be red. He's going to buy a sports car, and it's going to be red. And you know what? I get that answer 100% of the time. And as I said, it doesn't take that much money to go from helping out your child to potentially messing up your kids. So be careful. Okay, so now let's talk about the framework. And what I just shared highlights the issue. The issue is, we want to grow the money tax efficiently. We don't want to have to give the government any more money than we legally have to. We want to pay everything that we owe, but we don't want to pay anything more that we don't have to. And there's different strategies, and depending on how you do it, primarily if you put the account in your child's name or you have a custodian account for your child, that is the most tax efficient way for that money to grow. So if you think about it as an X and a Y scale, right, and on the X-axis, you have tax efficiency. So you want to be as far on the right as you can. And then on the Y-axis, on the vertical axis, you have control. And as a parent, we want to have as much control as possible because while our kid might be cute and cuddly at 6 months old and 18 months old and at 5 years old, none of us know what our kid's going to be like when they're 18. Maybe they're hanging with the wrong crowd. Maybe, I hope this doesn't happen to anybody, but, maybe they're involved with things that you don't think they should be involved in, and they need to kind of grow out of that. And unfortunately, having access to a lot of money is going to do more harm than good. So as parents, what we want is we want high tax efficiency, but we also want a lot of control so we don't inadvertently mess up our kid, right? So on the control side, the low control is you put money in an account, a custodian account for your child. And In most states, those are called UGMAs or UTMAs, UTMA or UGMA. Basically, it's a Uniform Gift to Minors Act, the UGMA. And in most states, that money becomes your child's money when they're 18 or 21. Now, be careful because there's a lot of press about, boy, if you put $1,000 a year into your child's Roth IRA, they'll be millionaires by the time they're 60. And it's true. If you just do that till they're 18. But that Roth account becomes theirs before they're 21. And yes, that's a tax-deferred account and there's penalties on it, but there's nothing that stops the kid, once they have access to the account, to saying, I don't care, pay the taxes, pay the penalty, I want that money. So while it can be a powerful tool, it's also a tool that you have very little control on. The other caution I'll give you is your child needs to have earned income. And so make sure, like if you have your own business, just make sure they're doing some legitimate work, like maybe helping you clean the office on the weekends or something like that. But it really has to be legitimate work where they're getting paid a market rate. You can't pay your kid, $10,000 for 4 hours of helping you clean your office. I'm not an accountant. It's not tax advice. But again, the goal is to have maximum tax efficiency and control. And one of the nice tools is something called the 529 account. The 529 account is sort of like a Roth IRA, but for educational expenses. So you put money into the 529 account. It grows tax-free. Typically, you're not going to get any tax break with the money in. Your state might give you a small tax credit, but you're basically putting in income. You're putting in money that you've already been taxed on, like you would in a bank account. But you put this into your 529 account after tax dollars. It grows tax-free, and then if it's used for qualified educational expenses, notice I didn't say college, qualified educational expenses, then you can take it out and not have to pay taxes on those withdrawals. Just be careful that it is a qualified education expense, and the IRS has some guidance on that. I'll leave a link in the website so you can see it. But it can be a super powerful tool for you, because it gives us the tax efficiency that we're looking for while also giving us the control. And one of the nice things is it used to be if your kid had unspent money in the 529 account, there were limited options that you could do with that money. But just recently, the government said if an account's over 15 years old, you can transfer that money, the money that's been in the account over 5 years, you can transfer up to $35,000 into a Roth, subject to the same conditions. Your child still has to have earned income, but it can be a powerful tool. So again, $10,000 a year adds up very quickly, and your child can end up with $400,000 when they're 18 years old, which is a lot of money, but do you really want to give your child that money? So the 529 is important. It's important for you to also know you don't have to open up the 529 in your state. Different states, 529 accounts are run by states. Different states have different programs. Many of you know I live in a ski town in Utah full-time. In Utah, I'm not sponsored by Utah's 529, but Utah is typically ranked one of the top 529 providers in the United States, primarily because Utah has a lot of good offerings, a wide selection of offerings, and also pretty low cost. So it's one of the reasons, but you do your own math, look at different state programs. 529 accounts can be powerful. I will give you a caution that, you don't want to overfund a 529 account. You do have the ability to move that $35,000 with a bunch of qualifiers into a Roth. If it ends up not being used, you can transfer it to other of your children. Again, not tax advice, but essentially if you're a child, you can transfer that money to whoever shares a biological or even adopted, I think works out, biological grandmother or grandfather, so they're cousins essentially. But most of us want that money to go to our kids. So you do have the out with the Roth, but you don't want to overfund it. I will share with you that a really powerful strategy is when your child is first born, if there's any way you can put 1/4 of what you think it's going to cost for your child to go to college at a state education, if you use, in theory, if it's exposed to the stock market, it should double twice over a child's 18-year history. So 0 to 9 years, and then 9 to 18, it doubles once, doubles twice. So just for the sake of argument, you put in 1 year's college room and board at a state university, it's going to double 2 times, so you'll have 4x of what you need. Now, the tuition and the room and board is going to go up at the same time. So if you're really good at math, think about in 18 years, what's that state university going to do? But again, it's a very powerful tool. So think about the 529, and that's the framework. Think about tax efficiency. Think about control. Think about, unfortunately, it doesn't take that much money to mess up an 18-year-old. So be careful about putting too much money in their name. And then getting back to you, I want you to think about watching this video here, which is 5 reasons that you should think about retiring as soon as you can. I'll see you in there. Thanks for watching this video. Bye-bye.